What would you do if your parents chose a wedding over your life? Not hypothetically, not someday, right now, in a hospital room that smells like antiseptic and silence, while a machine beside you keeps reminding everyone that time is not unlimited. That was exactly where Lena Carter, 17, found herself. But before we continue, please subscribe and turn on the notification bell for updates. Flat on a stiff hospital bed, fingers curled into the thin blanket, eyes fixed on the ceiling because looking at her parents made it worse. David Carter, 48, stood near the window scrolling through his phone. Marissa Carter, 45, adjusted her purse like this was just another inconvenient appointment running late. And then they said it. We're not paying. No hesitation, no discussion, just a decision, clean and final. Here's the part that didn't make sense, because Lena already knew something they thought she didn't. Just 2 weeks earlier, she'd overheard them celebrating a $40,000 payment for Ashley's wedding, her older sister, the golden child, the one who never had to ask twice for anything. So how does a family afford fireworks, a designer dress, and a luxury venue, but not a surgery their daughter actually needs? Lena didn't argue, she didn't cry, she just nodded. Because deep down this wasn't new, it was just louder. The room went quiet again, heavy, uncomfortable. And then the door opened. Footsteps, calm, measured. The doctor walked in, glanced at the chart, then at her parents. And what he said next made the entire room shift. Wait, you're her parents. But what came next would make that question feel like a warning. That sentence changed everything, but not in the way anyone expected. Because here's the truth, moments like that don't come out of nowhere. They build, quietly, slowly, over years of small decisions that don't seem important until they suddenly are. Lena had spent 17 years learning exactly where she stood. Second, not in a dramatic, obvious way. No yelling, no outright rejection, just patterns, subtle ones, the kind that make you question yourself instead of them. Ashley Carter, 24, was the center of everything. Birthdays with rented venues, professional photo shoots just because. Even her mistakes were treated like charming stories. Meanwhile, Lena's achievements, top grades, academic awards, were acknowledged with a distracted, "That's nice," before the conversation drifted back to Ashley. And money, that was never the issue. That's what made this moment so sharp. Because Lena remembered the spreadsheet she accidentally saw on the family laptop. Wedding expenses itemized down to the last dollar. 40,000, maybe more. Flowers alone cost more than Lena's entire surgery estimate. And the surgery wasn't optional. Her condition had a name: progressive spinal degeneration. It started as back pain, then stiffness, then days where standing too long made her legs feel like they didn't fully belong to her anymore. The doctor had already warned them, delay this and it doesn't just stay painful, it becomes permanent. But standing there in the hospital room, her parents didn't look like people making a hard choice. They looked certain. "She'll be fine," her mother said flatly. "We just can't do everything at once," her father added. Lena didn't respond. She learned that speaking didn't change outcomes, it just made things awkward. Then the door opened. Dr. Elias Morneau, 52, stepped in, scanning the room with the kind of precision that misses nothing. His eyes moved from Lena to her parents, then back again. Something didn't sit right with him. You could see it. He glanced at the chart again, slower this time. Then he said it. "Because according to these records, that doesn't make sense." And just like that, the story her parents were telling started to crack. But what he uncovered next would make things a lot worse than anyone in that room was prepared for. The room didn't go silent because of what he said, but because of what it implied. Dr. Morneau didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. The shift was in his tone, precise, controlled, and suddenly very focused. He pulled the rolling screen closer, tapping through Lena's file with practiced speed. Insurance codes, authorization logs, dates. His eyes narrowed slightly. "Your daughter's procedure," he said almost casually, was already approved. That landed strangely. Not loud, not explosive, just wrong. Because a second ago, this was about money, about what they couldn't afford. So how do you explain something that's already covered? Lena blinked, sitting up a little. Wait, what? Her parents didn't answer. That was the first crack. Dr. Morneau continued, now slower, more deliberate. Full coverage. Pre-authorized last month. No outstanding balance that would delay scheduling. He turned the screen slightly, just enough for them to see. And that's when it got uncomfortable. David shifted his weight. Marissa crossed her arms tighter than before. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't surprise. It was recognition. Lena felt it immediately. That quiet, sinking realization when something clicks into place, but you wish it hadn't. So if money wasn't the problem, what was? Dr. Morneau tapped once more, then paused. Also, he added, almost as an afterthought, the request wasn't denied. A beat. It was withdrawn. Now the silence meant something. Lena's heartbeat picked up uneven. Withdrawn by who? No one answered. Dr. Morneau's gaze moved from the parents, back to Lena. Then he turned the screen fully toward her. A digital form sat there, clean, official, signed. Lena, he said carefully, did you authorize this cancellation? And just like that, the question wasn't about money anymore. It was about who made the decision, and why. But Lena already knew one thing for certain. She hadn't signed anything. And what that meant was far worse. Lena hadn't signed anything, and that's when the truth stopped hiding. She shook her head slowly. No, I didn't. The words felt small, but in that room they carried weight. Dr. Morneau didn't react immediately. He just nodded once like he'd expected that answer. Then he leaned in, eyes scanning the authorization details more closely. Timestamp, device ID, signature match. All right, he said quietly. Then we have a problem. And not the kind you can brush off. He turned the screen slightly, angling it so Lena could see clearly now. The signature wasn't handwritten, it was digital. Clean, efficient, approved with a single click. But the name attached to the authorization account. Her father's. The timestamp. 2 weeks ago. The same week Ashley finalized her wedding venue and vendors. Lena didn't speak this time. She didn't need to. Her eyes moved, slowly, deliberately, from the screen to her parents. David looked away first. Marissa followed a second later. That was enough. No dramatic confession, no shouting, just silence doing all the work. You canceled it, Lena asked, her voice steadier than she expected. Her father exhaled, like this was an inconvenience finally catching up to him. We postponed it. That's not what the record says, Dr. Morneau cut in, sharper now. Marissa stepped forward, defensive. We needed time. The wedding was already planned. Deposits were non-refundable. So you made a medical decision based on event logistics, Dr. Morneau interrupted. That question didn't need an answer. It already had one. The room felt smaller, tighter. For Lena, something shifted, not loudly, not dramatically, but permanently. This wasn't neglect anymore. It was a choice, a clear one. And for the first time, she didn't look hurt. She looked done. Dr. Morneau straightened, his tone changing completely. Then I need to be very clear, he said. This procedure isn't optional. Delaying it risks permanent damage. A pause. And given what I'm seeing here, I may be required to report this. That word hung in the air. Report. Because now, this wasn't just about a family decision. It was about accountability. And what happened next wouldn't stay inside that hospital room. The fallout didn't explode all at once. It unfolded quietly, but every piece hit exactly where it mattered. Within hours, things started moving. Different staff came in, not just nurses, administration, calm voices, careful questions, forms that didn't feel routine anymore. Lena watched it happen from her bed, like she was finally seeing something that had always been there, just out of reach. Her surgery was rescheduled, immediately. No delays, no more we'll see. The approval had never been the issue, and now neither was access. Her parents weren't in the room when that happened. In fact, they weren't there much longer at all. No dramatic exit, no final argument, just a quiet absence that said more than anything they'd already admitted. And strangely, Lena didn't try to stop them, because something had already settled in her mind. Dr. Morno stopped by once more before the procedure. No clipboard this time, no rush. He stood at the side of her bed, studying her for a moment. Then he said, almost the same way he had before, calm but heavier now, "Wait, you're her parents." Only now, it didn't sound like a question. It sounded like disbelief that hadn't faded. The surgery went forward. The outcomes stable. Not perfect, not instant, but enough. Enough to stop things from getting worse. Enough to give her something she almost lost: time. Weeks later, Lena saw the photos. Ashley's wedding flooded social media. Perfect lighting, perfect smiles. A day everyone would remember. At the same time, Lena was learning how to walk without pain again. 2 milestones, same family, very different priorities. And maybe that's the part that lingers. Not the refusal, not even the choice. But how clear everything becomes when someone finally says one sentence, and the truth can't hide behind it anymore. So if you were in Lena's place, when silence breaks and everything is exposed, what would you do next?